For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Elizabeth Lyons. How's it going today, Elizabeth?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm doing good.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that we were able to make time to get this to work. You know, with everything going on in the world the last few weeks, it's kind of, and my job, it's like everything's been put on hold. And I'm like up to hours before where it's like, am I actually going to be able to do this podcast tonight? And then it's like, yes. So
I know. I feel like I was just talking. I was in a forum earlier, and it's like this like unknown feeling is
yeah,
just that uncertainty is so overwhelming, and so having this on a having this on a schedule though, it's so nice. I feel like and I feel I feel like everyone's feeling that way.
yeah. Well, I work for a TV station, so at any given moment, my phone could ring and say, "Hey, the world is on fire. We need you to do this." And it's
So
just like
cool. What? That's awesome. What do you do for the TV station?
I do like promos and like build like news graphics and stuff like that. So it's like really creative.
Cool.
This is what it's called. So like if somebody like some breaking news happens, I need to be able to make graphics for them, and it's like
Wow.
just don't do it when I'm sleeping. Please let me sleep. That's all I ask for.
You need your sleep. Everyone needs their sleep.
Yep, absolutely. But first off, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I'm really excited to sit down and chat and get to know a little bit more about you, learn about your music and everything you got going on. You've been staying really busy during the pandemic. I was looking through your YouTube channel. You've released several music videos and done several live, like different lives and whatnot. So
Thank
first
you.
off, for the people that are just tuning in for the first time and just learning about you, what's kind of your backstory? What got you into music?
Well, at a young age, I mean, I can't remember a time where I didn't love music. It's always been something that's just made me really happy. And I grew up playing piano and taking piano lessons. And then I got into dance and then musical theater and was in 18 musicals growing up and just loved performing. And I would put on shows in our backyard for all of our neighbors and recruit the neighbors and my sisters to be in the show and charge tickets and just always loved, music. And when I went to college, I, was never the main part in high school. And I always had a lot of like talent, like my church choir instructor, she like recognized my talent and gave me like my first solo as the Three Kings in this, Christmas show. And so I always was given, kind of had like people throughout my life who believed in me and saw my talent, but was never like the main part. So I never really thought that I would be able to be like an artist full time and be like a professional like songwriter and make it a business. So I went into the business side of the industry, moved to Nashville and interned in music publishing and had a awesome boss who was my mentor and encouraged me to do the artist thing while I was in school and working for him. And through that I put out some music on MySpace that summer, and it got a lot of hits and people really liked the music I put out. And so I was like, wow, like I think I can do this. So my senior year of college, I put out my first EP that became an album all-time bestseller on iTunes, under $8. My first single was charted on Billboard and Music Row and was played on Sirius XM The Highway. And I sold over 100,000 songs, which that was pre Spotify. So I was making money, which then I put into touring, selling merchandise. And here I am several years later, and I'm still in the roller coaster.
Yeah. Hey, it's like, I've, so you're originally from Chicago, and I we'll get to the Chicago thing here in a little bit
Yeah,
because I have a very, very important question I need to ask you.
cool.
But we'll get to that in a minute. Um, was there ever any thought about staying in Chicago? Because it's like a very big city. Like, it would have been very easy to keep your music career going in Chicago, or was Nashville always kind of the
No, I honestly, I love Chicago and the Midwest. I have family in Iowa, Illinois, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. I would be nowhere in my career without the Midwest and my hometown. They were, my first believers. Some of my first shows were booked there. Ed Warm at Joe's on Weed Street had believed in me before, anyone else really did. And Don Smiley at Milwaukee Summerfest, you know, booked me as my first festival,
yeah.
and so, but I knew that I had to be in Nashville, Los Angeles, or New York.
Okay.
And I knew that I was going to be living in one of those cities and that I had to be there, because networking is such a huge part of the industry, and being around creatives in person, especially when you're starting off, is so important. So I knew I wanted to be in Nashville or LA or New York. And so I actually transferred from Wisconsin Madison to Vanderbilt University and graduated from Vanderbilt. So I made that big move, which was I picked
Yeah.
up my whole life and social life to move down there and be down there full time so that I could pursue it.
Yeah.
But I love Chicago and I go back all the time. And I mean, honestly, like, I think I was going in the beginning pre coronavirus, I was going down there at least, I was or up there, like 3 times a year playing
Mhm.
shows, if not more than that. So,
Yeah. Well, I was sitting here thinking, I was like, man, we must have grown up in two complete different parts of Chicago. And then I realized, yes, we did. Because I'm like, man, I mean, Chicago was cool, but I don't want to go back 3, 4 times a year. Like, once a year is
no.
good enough for me, And it's just growing up on the South Side, it was very, you go, you work at the whatever your parents did, and that
Hmm.
was your life. So, like, if your dad was a
Yep,
pipe fitter, you were a pipe fitter. If your dad worked at the steel yard, you went to the steel, it was one of those things. And I
totally.
always told myself that I was gonna get out and I was gonna break the mold. Um,
Totally. Well, it's
and
funny you say that. Yeah. Cause like, I mean, I went to high school where you're encouraged to do, um, you know, a business or go
yeah,
into like more safe things. Like, are you going to be a doctor or you're going to go into finance or you're going to go into, you know,
yeah,
whatever, like some safe things. And the music industry is not a safe bet. And so that's kind of why I initially went into the business side of the industry. And also my grandfather was, chairman and CEO of AC Nielsen Ratings. And so he
yeah,
kind of just encouraged me from entering into the entertainment field because it is so competitive and you just don't know. And but it was cool to see his reaction later on in life and being like, no, I'm so proud of you and all that and everything that I accomplihed. But so many people are trying to do it. So it's very unlikely that anything's going to really happen,
yeah.
so.
Yeah. No, I completely get it. Like, I still get questions to this day of how can you just get up? Because I have a tendency to just pick up and move at random. And are the family that I still have back in Chicago, or my friends back in Chicago, every time I go and see them, it's always the joke of, "Oh, well, where do you live now?" And it's like, I live wherever I want to live because I can. I'm not, it's one of those things. And it's
Totally.
just like, I don't know. It's that mindset of they like to have that like what is considered stable or stability, I
Stability.
guess is what it is. It's like, I
Hmm.
don't know. I just kind of like not knowing what's going to happen in the next 6 months.
Right,
You know?
right. And in this industry, you kind of have to be more flexible and kind of take opportunities and kind of take more risks.
Mm.
And sometimes that can be hard for people and scary. And if you've done it though a bunch of times, like you have, I'm sure it's become more of a norm for you. Which I can relate to. I lived in, Chicago, Madison, Nashville, New York, and now I'm back and forth between NOLA and Nashville. So
Mm.
I can kind of relate. I mean, I think you have to just, look at it like your path is your path and that you're supposed to be on that. And for whatever reason, you are. And so make the best of it. And you learn something new, I think, in every situation that you challenge yourself and take that risk.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. So, as far as music goes, you got your start on the you said on the business end, so like doing like music publishing and working on that aspect. And
Yeah.
then you kind of were able to transition that into your music career. Do you attribute that to a lot of your early on success, like having that knowledge of the business end, or what do you attribute the early on success to?
I think it's a collaboration of that. I did a lot of research and observing and listening. I asked a lot of questions. While I was interning, I a lot of times kept quiet that I was doing like music and like the
Yeah,
creative side of things as an artist.
yeah,
It wasn't really until, and I'm in rooms with, I see songwriters and artists every day. I was at the front desk of the music publishing company, so I'm listening to music all the time. I'm
yeah.
I'm taking notes on what the publishers are saying and the critiques that they're giving and all of that. I think I'm a really big to-do list person too. And so in a way that helped because I created goals and created things that I need to accomplish at certain times. And because being an entrepreneur, as I'm sure you can relate to, there's so many things that you have to do. And there's so many hats that you have to wear as an
Totally.
independent artist as well, that um, writing those things down and making sure that I was accomplishing all of
Mhm.
them was really, I think was the big part of the success of why there was a strategy. Like I thought through things. I looked like, when Taylor Swift released her albums
Yeah,
or, Florida Georgia Line, how they use their social media. And like, it didn't just happen.
yeah.
And then also from a social standpoint, something that made me different. I wasn't always like I'm really social and I'm a part of music groups
Mhm.
and stuff, but I'm also friends with like people that are athletes or
Mhm.
people that are in business that don't know anything about music industry. And I think kind of having that diversity of like, or I was in a sorority
Yeah.
and like really involved in Greek life. And so I kind of played on my kind of being friends with a lot of different
Mhm.
groups and having it spread word of mouth and asking people to help me spread that word like individually was part of the success of why I've been able to do what I've done and not be afraid to ask people for things and just kind of putting yourself out there and just doing it,
Yeah.
and proving it,
I you touched on something very important there, just putting yourself out there and doing it. Like that's I talk to a lot of people and they're afraid to just start, put themselves
Mhm.
out there and just do it. I
Yeah.
think that if anybody takes anything away from this entire interview, that is the one key thing I want everybody to take away. Just put yourself out there and do it.
And
So
prove it, as my song
yeah.
goes.
Um so so you'd mentioned that a lot, or when you first got started, it was pre-Spotify, and then like now Spotify's kind of started working its way up, and now like especially during the pandemic, it's like really become a king, I guess is the best way to word it. Um, how have you seen, or how has Spotify kind of changed your release strategy? Where are you still very album oriented, or or have you always kind of been like doing singles? Like, how has it kind of changed your release strategy?
Oh my God, you just hit on what I've been thinking about like all day today. So I've always with Spotify, the algorithm is constantly changing.
Hmm.
And I have always kind of the last few years, I would say, done singles. Like this past year, for instance, I think I released 3 singles, kind of 4 because Epiphany was at the end of 2019.
Yeah.
And so kind of like every few months released a new single, which really I saw was really great. Now with 2021, as I begin to think, I haven't released a full length album since 2016.
Mhm.
And so I kind of have this like feeling of that I want to release a full length album.
Yeah.
And so I have 7 of the 9 songs that I see for the album. But I'm having a hard time with if I should put the album out and then promote the songs as singles every
Mhm.
month, or if I should just put each song out over the next year. Um, it's everything's just so new and uncharted, and then also with not touring, do I even put it out,
Yeah.
if we're not able to tour? Because part of you know being an independent artist is like, I have all these festivals, and that's kind of how I rely on a lot of word of mouth, is like these
Mhm.
meet and greets after, and going to the radio and TV. Like that's usually how I kind of create, it
Yeah.
makes it helps a
Yeah,
lot.
absolutely. And like this is a conversation I have all the time about Spotify. And like I'm trying to come up with a strategy where you can still release full-length albums, but use Spotify to your benefit to promote those albums. Because
Mhm.
I think if you release like your full album on Spotify, you're kind of just dropping it all at once, and after 3 months or whatever it is, okay, you're out of the loop. But
Right.
and so I've been kind of crafting this thing, and we'll get to the other part here in a second about Spotify, the pandemic, singles versus album, because I have a theory on that one as well. But
Cool.
like, it's like I kind of think if you release like one or two singles on Spotify and then release the album and say, hey, you like these songs, here you can buy the whole album.
Mhm.
And then like once the initial rush of the album goes off, then you can start releasing the rest of the songs as singles or whatever,
Mm.
like like however you want to phrase, and
I
release it on
kind of like
Spotify.
that.
It's just kind of trying to find a happy medium in both, but which opens up the next problem. To promote an album, you need to be out doing shows, you need to be out playing, touring, whatever it is. Pandemic,
Yeah.
can't do that. So it's kind of like six of one, half dozen of the other, because it's like you can release the full length, but you really
Yeah.
should be releasing singles because then you're staying at the top of the charts, so it's like a whole algorithm thing. But I think during the pandemic, as long as you're not touring, I think singles is probably the place where you need to be.
Yeah. No, it's so funny because it's like, I kind of created the album as, um, you know, they're all part of like a story, right? And there's
Yeah.
different sections. And so now it's like, and then how do you release the single as a part of that? And but I think you're kind of right. Like that was my take in 2020, was when this pandemic happened. I was like, I'm just gonna put out music, and I'm gonna do as many interviews and Zooms and Instagram lives, and
Mhm.
kind of use this to my advantage, because when you're when things happen that are not planned, or there's a crisis or whatever, it's all about how you take that as, an opportunity to do things that you wouldn't normally do. And it was really cool to see everything with, Brave Enough, and how we raised money for, you know, um, foundations during the pandemic. And then, I put
Mhm.
out Prove It, which is more of a, high energy, like you can do this, like you got this kind of empowering song.
Yeah.
And then, a Christmas song, which is like so like fun and all about like drinking, Dow wine, and really like just like a free spirit, like happy go lucky song. And so, but now I'm like, okay, 2021, like how do I continue this singles
Yeah.
thing? So I don't know. It's and then, like my sister who's 20 years old, she's like, well, I don't really listen to a full length album.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't think people have the attention spans with TikTok of 15 seconds. So
Yeah.
who's going to listen to,
Well, here's kind of where I've come up with it. It's like, yes, Spotify, cool, but like when you're out at shows, me personally, and I know there's plenty of people in similar situations, if I want to support the artist, I want something tangible. I don't want you to hand me a download card or a,
right. I still make CDs.
yeah,
Uh, People love country music, like country music fans love CDs.
yeah,
I'm like, I just got some Prove It and Brave Enough and Feeling Like Christmas. I got to put them up on my website, but y'all be on the lookout.
nice,
You reminded me I need to do that.
nice. Well, and like I've even taken it a step further. Like when I go out to shows, if I see somebody's pressed vinyl, like if they have a 45 or 33, like whatever they pressed,
Yep.
I'll buy the vinyl with no real intention on listening to it, but I'll go to Spotify and like, because for me, vinyl is all about the artwork. Like, I just love the artwork. I love having that physical piece of art in front of me. And then the artist wins twice because they get my 30, 40 bucks, like whatever they're charging for the vinyl. And
Right.
then I'll go listen to them on Spotify. You win twice. So
Mhm.
it's one of those things, it's just kind of figuring out where your audience is and if they're audiophiles and like the vinyl or if they
Yeah.
on Spotify, it's just kind of figuring
Well,
out where your audience
it's
is.
funny. It's funny you said that though, because I read the Forbes yesterday. Forbes released an article about like the music industry and what's going to be projections for 2021, and they were talking about how vinyl is going to be a big thing
Yeah.
for artists. So
Yeah.
you're definitely onto something there.
Yeah. And well, it's like we're regressing in a way. We're nostalgia is everything right now. You
Hmm.
want to uh speak to somebody, you just got to make them feel nostalgic about something. And
Yeah,
so, like, for whatever or not for whatever reason, but like vinyl is the epitome of nostalgic music.
totally.
And for whatever reason, cassette tapes are making a comeback. I haven't quite figured out the purpose behind that one, but
Yeah, I don't know about those.
I was reading, we released an article about a month or two ago
Oh,
about how cassette tapes are making a comeback. And I'm like, this makes no sense, though. They're not cheap. They don't even sound that good.
nope.
Like, where's the upside on this one? But um,
People
so
are
and-
funny. It's it's the nostalgia. I guess people like that, maybe going back and the physicalness of holding something and collecting something. I think people like that.
yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you've been really busy during 2020. You released three originals, and was the Christmas song an original?
It was, yes. I
Okay,
wrote it with Corey English and Danny Myrick. And Corey is another independent artist, and she's amazing. And we did a partnership with Dow Vineyards, who was so sweet to support, uh, us artists in this time. And so, and I love their wine. I served it at my wedding, so I was already a big fan prior to doing this. And I've always wanted to do a collaboration with a wine company. I have a song called Champagne that I released a few years ago. So I like to drink, and so that's always
I,
fun.
I mean, I'm trying to find the perfect whiskey partner to partner with. So I'm right there. Like, I'm not. My dad's kind of the wine connoisseur, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah,
but
cool. Well, my husband likes whiskey, and my mom drinks Gentleman Jack, and my husband drinks Buffalo Trace. So.
yeah, it was really funny because I'm the only one in my family that drinks whiskey, and I went to Western or over like right around Labor Day, somewhere around there. My parents were like, "Hey, let's all go to Western Kentucky and just kind of meet up, have a family weekend because my parents live down in South Florida. I live out in Texas. My
Oh,
sister
cool. Yeah.
still lives up in Illinois, or
Chicago.
no, she lives in Indiana now, technically."
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and so it was just like, "Hey, let's just get together and have a good weekend." I'm like, "Okay, cool." My mom's like, "What are you are you still drinking your Tennessee honey and all that stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine. Like, I'm good with that." And then the day we get there, she's like, "Hey, there's a distillery trail here. Let's go do that." I'm like,
Oh.
"I'm the only one that drinks whiskey in this family. Like, you guys really want to go do that?" And she's like, "Yeah, let's go do it." And we go, and then I'm like, okay, this is cool. And like I think they called it like the Whiskey Freedom Trail or something. I don't remember exactly
Ooh,
what it
I
was
love
called.
that.
There's like three distilleries that you got to go to. And if you went on each tour, you got a little shot glass, and at the end of the third one, you got like a paddle to put so you can basically try their base whiskey or whatever it is.
Oh, wow.
It was really cool. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like having fun. My dad's sitting there drinking moonshine, my sister's drinking
Oh,
moonshine, and I'm drinking whiskey. And I'm like, all right, this is the weirdest family outing we've ever been on. Cool.
yeah.
I'm with it.
It sounds awesome. I mean, the only whiskey I've drink some moonshine before, but I've loved Fireball shots. I used to be a big Fireball shot girl. I actually, before shows, like you know, pre-corona, if it was available or if I could put it on my list of things I wanted before the show, I always
Nice.
take a little Fireball shot right before
Nice.
if it was available, or
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm right there with you with the drinking, and I enjoy it.
Good.
I've actually I follow a bunch of whiskey Instagram pages, and it's just kind of like, oh, maybe one day I'll get these little micro distilleries, and
Yeah,
so
you should. You should message them. Start the relationship now.
yeah,
Tell them you're a fan and hit them up. I'm sure they'd be
yeah,
down.
yeah. All right, so so you've released four songs, right? Because 24 you said was kind of like right at the beginning of
Yeah, I think
2020.
it was in January 2020, and I think so. I mean, I feel like I need to like go on
I'm
my
saying like
Spotify and look. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure.
I don't quite trust Spotify because last time I went by Spotify, everything was like out of whack, and I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, now they have it, so it's like you have to swipe all the way down, and so like to find stuff. Yeah, so it's 24,
yeah,
Prove It, and Brave Enough, and Feeling Like Christmas. So I guess four songs. Jeez Louise, I hit it hard.
yeah. Hey, that's
2020.
and then you also did music videos for all of them, or a video
Yes.
component of some
Yeah,
sort.
so for 24, Alex Berger, I always pronounce his last name wrong, but I try to get it right. He did my 24 music video, which we shot in New Orleans, and it was
Mhm.
kind of a um, about just kind of finding your path, and that kind of showing me in college and then in Nashville and then now performing and whatever in front of friends and family and stuff like that, and that kind of path that you take, and that your 20s are kind of this like uncertain time in your life, and that you just have to have faith that your path is your path, and that's the plan, and you're supposed to go through the hard times to get you to appreciate the good things and grow and become the person that you are.
Mhm.
And then Brave Enough, I actually had the song. I was going to release it in the fall, but had the song kind of in my back pocket. And I
Yeah,
was like, oh my God, this is so applicable to what people are going through right now, being brave on the front lines of this corona pandemic. And so I basically created the album art through old photo shoot that I did with Alex
yeah,
for 24 and Epiphany, and then put the music video I downloaded and bought, content and created the music video on iMovie
yeah.
and put it on YouTube. And, it got a lot of views, and it was just $37 music video. It was great.
Nice.
And and so that was cool to see kind of how people really resonated with people, and was picked up by Fox, and it was cool. Like, it was just really
Yeah,
awesome. And then obviously Prove It,
yep,
I shot with Adam Dufresne and Louis Aboyje. I always pronounce his last name wrong too. I'm so bad. And we shot it in New York City because when I lived in New York, I was working as an executive assistant to a CEO and president of a major entertainment company, and while I was doing music and was just proving it, and the energy of, there's no other city where, other than I feel like New York, where there's just such that hustle
yeah,
and bustle that is 24/7.
yeah,
And so we shot it at, I think, six different locations of cities, and then ended it with me kind of conquering one of my fears, which is heights, and being in a helicopter going over the city, which was terrifying
yeah.
but so exhilarating at the same time. So, and then Feeling Like Christmas, we shot when we were writing the song,
Mhm,
and then did another, video more recently where we did an Instagram live to
mhm.
promote it and got some footage behind the scenes for that.
I think you're kind of glossing over one thing about Prove It.
So.
I think you need to brag on it a little bit more.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it went number one on iTunes, which is really
Yeah.
on the country music charts, and number three on all genre, which was this was my top charting, music video. And it was
Mhm.
played on CMT.
Yep.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What thank you guys for, making that happen. So and
I was gonna say, I was like, this is not the podcast to be humble. Like, you should brag on it a little bit, you know.
oh God,
Um,
thank
because
you.
that was the first thing I noticed. Like, I was on your Facebook page and I saw you had like the screen cap that it was on CMT. I didn't
Hmm.
know it went. What was it? You said, well, I knew it went number one.
On
So
iTunes, and yeah, for country, and
uh,
number three on all genre.
yeah, I didn't know number three on all genres. I didn't know about that one.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I saw like the first thing I saw was the CMT, and I'm like, wow, like that's really cool. Right.
So
So
awesome. CMT is so great, so supportive of independent artists and especially women. And so really honored to be a part of that. And obviously all of my fans and you guys all watching, like, if you know me, thank you for, buying my music video. It just means a lot that people still buy
mm,
music videos and music. And then also if you don't know me, you should follow me, and we can be friends. And yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
And then you can be the first to know about my music videos.
And then I want to talk about the Christmas song, even because it was kind of like a co-write project. Was that
Yeah.
something that you've always wanted to do? Was a Christmas song, or because
Yes.
like it's something like I've heard of independent musicians. Like every once in a while they'll do a Christmas song, but it seems like this year it must have been a pandemic thing. But like almost every musician that I've talked to has a Christmas song out, and I'm like, it's got to be.
I know. It's like we've got a lot of Christmas music. It's
Yeah.
funny because we actually planned. So I've always wanted to do a Christmas song. I always thought it would be so fun. Um, I loved Christmas music until I worked a retail job, and then I did not like Christmas. um, but now, I do love Christmas music. Growing up, we went. I had the best church, and we would sing Christmas songs every Christmas Eve, and it was just so special. And music really does bring people together, which is so
Mhm.
awesome. But yeah, so a year ago, I had met. I kept running into a friend of mine who connected me to George Dow,
Mhm.
and he is a proprietor and owner of Dow Vineyards, and he worked with Corey on, they were releasing a song called Rose All Day. And he was like, you guys have such similar energy and such a good vibe. And so we FaceTimed with Corey, and he was like, I want you guys to do a Christmas song. So we got together, and Corey had us over at her house and invited Danny Myrick, who's a huge songwriter who wrote Truck Yeah by Tim McGraw and I Love This Life by Johnny Cash and She's Country by Jason Aldean. He's amazing.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to work with him. So that was cool. Corey brought him in. And so we wrote two Christmas songs that day. And Dow ended up going with Feeling Like Christmas. And, it was, I actually kind of forgot I was releasing it because I was so caught up in Prove It.
Yeah.
Honestly. And so, and then I was like, oh my God, all these people are releasing Christmas songs. And
Mhm.
but it was perfect because ours was not, we wrote the song, so it's not really like any other song. It's kind of like easy to listen to. I feel
Mhm.
like even though it's not Christmas, and the whole essence of the song is that you want it feeling like Christmas all year long. And the meaning of Christmas is, three things like family, friends, and wine, or drinking, or whatever you drink. For
Yeah.
us, it was red Cabernet the day we wrote it, three bottles later and two songs later, so there's that.
That's that's awesome. And then kind of moving forward, you're working on an out or the next body of work, let's say, because you don't know if you're going to release it as an album or a single. Um, Wh- as you're kind of going through that process, what's your creative process when you sit down to write? Like, are you very sporadic? Like, you'll be driving in the car one day and it's like, oh, Yellow Highway. That's a song, or
Yeah,
like whatever. Or are you very, um, I don't want to say militant with it, but disciplined? Like, okay, I
yeah.
only have from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Be creative.
I'm a little bit of both. For this body of work, it's actually kind of I actually through the pandemic listened to a lot of my old music and work tapes and stuff. So you're gonna hear some songs that I wrote and recorded many years ago. Actually, songs that one of the songs I'm putting out was actually on MySpace and was the reason I started all of this
Yeah.
and kind of had the confidence to actually like, do this as a career. And everyone always has asked me to record it ever since then, which I think was back in 2011. And so we're finally putting that out, and so that's exciting. But in terms of songwriting, I find that my ideas come to me at random times. A lot of the times, though, like in the shower or when I'm driving, where I'm kind of like more reflectant and not like distracted by social media or people around me. And then I usually kind of jot down the idea, and then working for myself, I do kind of have to compartmentalize. So then the other side of it is that like when I'm writing, when I schedule write, I do have to take that time to really write it and try to get something and kind of feel out the mood based on like who I'm writing with, what I know they do well, like maybe they do more ballads better. Then I'm going to pitch them one of my ballad ideas probably. And usually I'm kind of bringing in more of the ideas because I am the artist, and then they kind of help nurture that and bring things out of me that I wouldn't necessarily, have thought of, and vice versa. But there are some times though when people that really know me or listen to
Mhm.
my music beforehand will bring me ideas, and sometimes we'll just go off of what their ideas were too. So every situation is completely different, which is kind of the cool part of the creative process is just that. So,
Now, do you do most of your recording? I take it you do most of your recording in Nashville, or do you have a place down in New Orleans that you?
so it's kind of cool. It's like actually collaboration.
Mhm.
Typically, I only record really in Nashville,
Mhm.
but this last album I recorded I worked with mostly Nashville producers, or two Nashville or actually LA producers, and so they would record the track. I'd send them like the song, then I'd send them actually a Spotify playlist
Yeah.
of songs that I like, and then kind of create notes of things that I like and like what I want it to sound like, and then they kind of send me what their vibe is, and then I send kind of critique, and then I go into the studio with the track and actually recorded the vocals in New Orleans, Martha's Vineyard, and Nashville.
Oh wow.
So I was all over the place. So I originally was quarantined in New Orleans, then I was
Mhm.
quarantined in Martha's Vineyard, and actually recorded the at a little studio. I found no air conditioning, but it was really sweet and
Yeah.
so great. And actually, Obama recorded his Audible book at that the day I was in the studio. I wasn't able to be told who it was
Yeah.
until the engineer posted the picture, and I was like on Instagram. I was like, oh, cool.
Right.
And then and then I was in Nashville after that, and
Mhm.
so I then recorded vocals in Nashville. So it's kind of been all over the place, which is kind of
Right.
cool. It's like we're on each coast and in the South. I guess now need to go to Chicago to record a song or something.
Yeah, like I mean, and that's the cool thing about this day and age is quality control. Like as long as you have a engineer that is pretty competent in what they do,
Totally,
you can get the quality control to you can
completely.
get
And like we would FaceTime in with like my phone would like die all the
yeah.
time, but like we'd FaceTime in with the producers if they wanted to be there, and like would have the producer is David Spencer, who's incredible and pushed me so hard with my vocal. He was there the whole time. Like it was a 5-hour session and he was there, on Zoom, but not physically there,
Yeah.
So, and it's amazing. There's so much talent, and it's not just in Nashville. It's just kind of finding that talent, and the both engineers in New Orleans and in Martha's Vineyard are, also singers, and so they have that, and that was a cool approach because a lot of times Nashville engineer guys are actually just engineers. They're not singers too.
Yeah.
So, it was neat.
Yeah. Um, when there isn't a global pandemic going on, how often are you usually out doing live shows? How often do you do a get where you play?
Every month. I
Okay.
usually try to play one gig every month. In the summer months, it's usually like more than that, right? It's minimal, probably twice a month,
Yeah.
starting in April. But my goal is always like once a month. And
Mhm.
I used to go and play like 100 shows a year now, and then it was like 50, and then now I've kind of cut back to more like 20.
Mhm.
And I'm more selective with my
Mhm.
shows. Like if I think it'll be beneficial to my time rather than taking on like a lot
Mhm.
in the beginning. Like now it's more of like, okay, what am I going to get? Is it worth my time and what am I going to get out of
Yeah.
it? Is it going to be like, I'm going to be able to get a TV or radio or like a part of it and like be able to go to that place and really kind of connect with the community. And
Yeah.
that's kind of just how I've
Yeah.
changed and evolved over the years.
And it'll whether or not you'll be able to kind of help grow your awareness in the community, kind of like
Yeah,
build
exactly.
your yeah. I completely get it. Um, because the follow up question was going to be, do you think the regression in shows is more of a career extender as far as like saving your voice and stuff like that, or is it just because shows like is there a I guess the ultimate question is there a specific reason why you're ultimately being more
Yeah.
selective?
I mean, I think I realized that like sometimes my time is better spent elsewhere.
Mhm.
So like, or also my energy or money wise, like sometimes like taking shows that I'm trying to kind of collaborate, like shows where I'm not taking as much money, but I'm getting like a lot of like radio promotion or something, or like
Yeah,
TV. I'm more likely to do something like that than. But if I'm getting paid like a for a corporate gig or something like that's all and being paid really well, then that's really awesome too, and kind of combining like what I can do like
yeah,
financially, time wise, and then also like from an artist perspective, like kind of making sure that my schedule is I'm able to write and
yeah,
able to like spend that time on recording and writing, because I think a lot of the times when I was first starting off that kind of went to the wayside a little bit because I was just trying to like build my artistry and my fan base so quickly. So kind of being more strategic with how I like manage my time, I think is more important now,
yeah,
because you can't do it all,
yeah,
and so um, yeah, that's kind of why.
yeah.
But
There's only 24 hours in a day, so time management is really important.
yeah, but
And
I will say, like, I remember when I was first starting off, I played a festival 4 days in a row, and then they asked me to play like like long
yeah.
sets. Like I think it was I was on the main stage for like an hour, and then I had to play the side stage for 2 hours,
Oh wow.
and then I did that like 4 days in a row and my voice was completely like just shot, and so
Yeah,
you kind of have to, and I will never do that again.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so there are things that you kind of like learn that you're right, like your body, it's a muscle and
yeah.
you have to be careful,
Yeah. I've learned that lesson as well. Like just doing this podcast.
Hmm.
When like we started doing the podcast about 4.5 years ago. And then it was really the pandemic was kind of the hey, let's pick it up and let's like really go because the musicians don't have to come to me. You
Right.
you can literally just do it right here on Zoom and we're good. And so, like, right in April, I was like, all right, let's start off hot. Let's get it going. I was doing 3 1 hour, sometimes 90-minute interviews in a
Crazy.
day. And
Nuts.
I did that for 3 weeks straight, 7 days a week. And my sound engineer called me and he's like, dude, when'd you start smoking? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you sound like you've been chain smoking for the last month and a half. I was like, "Oh, do you think 21 podcasts a week is a little much?" He's like, "Yeah." Like, "Are
Yeah.
you insane?" And I'm like, "Maybe? I don't know. I haven't quite figured out how to answer that question yet, but
Wow, that's a lot. That's crazy. But I mean, it's great experience. I mean, it's that like 10,000 hour rule. But I know that's why I drink water all the time. You're
yeah."
seeing me drinking like evermore. I'm like, I gotta hydrate. Like
I w
I
I will
always have a
say
drink in my hand.
my skin's never been cleaner because I drink so much more water now.
Yeah,
But
it's so great. Everyone always asks me, like, oh, what do you do? Like for your skin, it's so like clean and glowy. And I'm like, I just drink a ton of water, you
yeah,
know?
and, like, I mean, the pandemic has hurt me in a lot of ways, like,
Mm.
I don't get out and I'm not quite as active as I normally am, and I've gained 40 pounds since the
Oh man.
pandemic.
Oh man, I know. I gained some weight, but then I like got it under control and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna work out. Like, and so I've been doing 26 minutes of like physical activity 6 days a week is what I'm trying to do. Just
Yeah,
26 minutes. And it's changed my life and I feel so much better now, you know? So
I
whether it's just walking or like doing squats while you're watching Netflix,
yeah,
like it's just it's I encourage you to do it. It's because it's
yeah.
like, okay, for some reason I can manage 26 minutes and like 30 minutes. It's like, oh, you know?
Yeah, I
So
actually today was the day I kinda decided I'm going to get it under control, because
yeah.
over Christmas, was with my parents, I was down in South Florida, and we were coming out of the grocery store, and I was like, "Oh, this is probably a bad idea," but they had, like, one of those giant scales to weigh, like, produce or, to
Yeah.
weigh whatever. I jump on. I normally weigh about 190, 195. I jump on the scale and I'm 235, and I'm like,
Oh.
"Oh boy, that's not good." And
Oh man.
my mom's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "You don't wanna know. Like, you don't wanna know right now." And then just today, I was just kinda like, "You know what? I'm gonna try something different." Drinking a lot like, I've I'll drink, like, 4 32-ounce cups of water a day, and now I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay, I'm gonna do 8."
Yep.
That helps, and then I've messed around with my diet a little bit, and then I'll start working out. I'll bring it like, I don't wanna overshock my body, like, "Oh,
Yes.
too much," and so then I'm gonna start slowly bringing in the workout and all that stuff, so
Yeah. No, I feel you. It's hard though. I mean, it's just, and I think you can just slowly like build upon it. Like, like with the pandemic, I would start walking was like the
yeah,
first thing. It was like getting fresh air, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna start walking. But I had gained weight because I feel like we were drinking
yeah,
more, and like I was, eating like not like normal, like
yeah,
and not moving as much, and I'm pretty like active normally, I feel
yeah,
like with like moving. And so but I think then that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to do this 26-minute like program that
yeah,
this blogger posted about, and it like changed my life. I mean, my husband's lost 15 pounds doing it.
nice,
um and it's great, and now I'm just like, okay, it's just part of my lifestyle. It's not like I have to do it, it's like I want to do it.
yeah,
Some days I don't. Like today I didn't want to do it,
right, you
but
did it anyways.
but yeah, and then I don't know, I feel like, just being conscious of like I love bagels, but like now I'm only going to try to eat them on the weekends,
Yeah,
and then try to be better during the week.
yeah,
So or like I love Diet Pepsi, which is kind of a bad thing, but now I just drink it in the morning, like right when I wake up, and then maybe sometimes if I'm out like to
I
dinner.
was reading this article the other day about you should only eat and drink within an 8-hour span, like, it's
Yeah.
like this intermittent fasting thing.
Intermittent fasting. That's the kind of what I do because I just feel like I never have time to eat
Mm.
usually. So I
Well,
just usually
like, just this entire week, I felt like I haven't been getting good sleep, and I'm
mm,
looking at myself, and it's like, it's because I'm drinking a Pepsi at 12 o'clock or at midnight, and then I'm going right to bed, and it's like,
mhm.
no wonder I'm not getting good sleep, and then I just was reading this article last night, and I'm like, "Let me you know what? I'm gonna try that tomorrow." So I woke up, I didn't eat until, like, 11 AM, and then
Yeah.
I was like I set it up so, like, when the podcast comes on, I'm done eating for the night
Perfect.
and we'll see how it goes. And I'll
Yeah.
give it like 4 days. If it works, cool. If not, figure something else out.
Yeah, exactly. I usually do like a big breakfast, a snack around like 3 o'clock, and then I try to eat at like 5:36, and then I try to not eat past 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Um, and then if like I'm craving something sweet, I'll grab like fruit or like, popsicles have been my favorite thing lately. So I don't know, but it's hard. You just kind of have to, I think about it as like a lifestyle change and that it's good for your body and like, but that you don't always have to be perfect, like not to put that pressure on yourself, like to be perfect all the time. Like you can, if you're craving pizza, you probably should you know,
Oh yeah.
eat pizza, don't like, but also like just don't have like half of Domino's, have like maybe one and a half pieces or two pieces,
Yeah.
not like, go crazy.
Well, that's kind of what the other thing I've been trying to negotiate with myself is instead of going to Popeyes to get chicken,
Oh,
just go to the store and buy a chicken breast, and if you want to fry it yourself, or like whatever it
exactly.
is. And it's
Yeah.
just like that's kind of how I've been trying to negotiate with myself is all these things that I like to eat. You can eat it, just don't go to the fast food restaurant. Make it yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I've been cooking. In the beginning of quarantine, I was posting some funny videos of me cooking. I probably should get back into that. But or maybe I shouldn't.
But Popeyes is just so good. And going like there was like an 8-year span where I didn't have a Popeyes anywhere near me. And now
Mhm.
that I have a Popeyes literally down the street,
Oh, it's dangerous.
it's like, oh man, I grew up eating this stuff.
Like,
And
yeah, I
yeah,
know. Well, I'm actually more of a, I'm gonna get like so much crap for this, but I'm more of a Cane's girl. I
okay.
don't know if you've ever been there.
I I haven't. No.
Okay, so yeah, there's kind of a rival in New Orleans with Cane's and Popeyes.
Okay.
And when we lived downtown for a little bit, and then we moved um into another part of New Orleans in the Garden District, and there's a Cane's like right around the corner, and
Yeah.
I literally think I went there like twice a week. It was so bad. But hey, chicken is good for you, so
Yeah.
that's good. If you limit the fries and the Texas toast and the
Yeah.
sides,
Yeah.
it is protein.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
that's how I
I
try to, you know, make
when I
it.
was living in the panhandle of Florida, I was introduced to Bojangles.
Oh yeah, I actually
And
I've never had that, but I
I, I
need to
was
try
I
that.
was literally it was another situation where like where I was living, it was right down the street. And I was at work one day and I asked one of the guys, I was like, hey, I go to chicken restaurants quite regularly, but I've never heard of Bojangles. What's the deal? He's like, you've never been to Bojangles? You need to go to Bojangles. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. And so I went, and that it was just like, it's not Popeyes, but it's
No,
good. Yeah.
no. Well, I've never been, but I'm assuming the funny thing about Popeyes is there's always a line, and I don't have time for that. I'm like, I need it fast, and then they always get my order wrong, and I'm like, no, if I want honey mustard or like sauce, like I'm all about the sauces, and if I don't get that sauce, it's gonna upset me. It's like with garlic sauce with Domino's, like I cannot eat Domino's without like the garlic sauce.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know.
Yeah. We'll get off the food topic here in a second.
Sorry. I
But
could talk about food for forever.
so since you've lived in Chicago and New York, I kind of have a feeling I think I know where you're going to go. Do you prefer Chicago style pizza or New York style pizza?
Ooh, New York.
Okay.
It's so funny because I just like thin crust pizza.
Yeah.
I like Chicago style pizza deep dish in the winter, like
Yeah.
when it's cold and it's like snowing and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, there's nothing better than like Illuminati's pizza.
Yeah.
But I eat like thin crust most of the time. And
Mhm.
Joe's in New York was,
Well,
I lived around the corner. So
that's what I had to explain to people. Like when I moved out of Chicago, they're like, "Oh, I can't eat that thick crust pizza." I was like, "People in Chicago don't eat the deep dish like that." Like, yeah, like if you're downtown and you're at Geno's or Lou
right.
Malnati's or like wherever, and you're there for a special occasion, yeah, you get the deep dish. But
Hmm.
9 times out of 10, you're not eating deep dish like that. Like
Right.
when we
Yeah.
had pizza on a Friday night, it was Aurelio's, or it was, like
Totally.
whatever your local pizza place was.
Yeah, yeah, like Barnaby's is so good where I grew up. Oh my God, the crust is incredible, but it's actually like a very thin crust,
Yeah.
like crunchy,
Yep.
like your equivalent to Domino's thin crust pizza.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And then, like, because I used to have the similar opinion about, like, people would always ask me, "Oh, do you prefer Chicago hot dogs or New York style hot dogs?" I'm like, actually, I prefer New York style hot dogs. Just
Wait, what is a New York style hot dog? I don't think I need.
I don't. It, I was like, because they equip the like
Oh,
it. I think
that's
it's
a good
more like the
question.
bun, like because Chicago
Oh,
style hot dogs, you get the black, what is it, poppy seed buns or whatever
oh yeah.
and then New York you don't. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't like the. I
Oh
don't.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I just Googled it. Okay. No. Yeah. I definitely like Chicago style.
Uh, okay.
Wait.
Well,
Yeah. And okay.
yeah.
So New York is a has a spicy brown mustard and sauerkraut or onion sauteed. So
Okay.
definitely like a Chicago style, hands down, easy. That was easy.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So outside of music, what are some of your hobbies? What do you do outside of music?
Well, we talked about food a lot. I love restaurants and I'm a foodie. I have a list of restaurants that I go to and started this kind of bagel tour where I review bagels because I love bagels in different areas that I was traveling to and playing shows at.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. But I also love to ski. I'm a big skier. I love the mountains. I love boating. I love being on the water and just find both experiences like so spiritual and just like
Mhm.
amazing. And I love to shop. I love clothes.
Yeah.
And my husband loves cars and
Yeah.
hunting, so I find myself doing those kind of things a lot. Um, and I've gotten into like decorating too. We, just bought a new house, and so it's been kind of fun to kind of look in decorating sites and feel like an adult, like being excited about like a freaking stool, like or fabric or whatever. So I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I love walking too. Just like going on a walk is,
Yeah.
just really nice for me. Oh, and
Uh,
movies. Like I was a radio, television, film major, so like I love movies and
yeah.
Netflix and bad reality
What are
TV.
you What are you watching on Netflix right now? What's your Netflix movie or
So,
show?
yeah, I was just gonna start the Queen's Gambit. I
Okay.
haven't finished the first episode, but I just started watching it.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, but last night we were watching Your Honor,
Hmm.
which is so intense. I can't. It's too stressful.
Okay.
I just need like The Bachelor. I
Yeah.
would watch that too. But um, the yeah, but on Netflix, what else? What did I just finish?
I just finished F is for Family.
Ooh, what's that about?
It's a Bill Burr adult comedy, so in like the same instances like Family Guy or The Simpsons. It's in the same genre as that, but it's
Okay.
basically it's loosely based off his stories of growing up in the 70s, and just
Oh,
so uh
cool. Sorry, I just opened my Netflix to remember what I just finished. And I'm like, ah.
it's all
Oh,
good.
sorry.
I heard something and I just figured it was yeah, but
Oh
no.
no, but Bridgerton. I just finished Bridgerton. That was
Okay.
the show. I don't know if
Nice.
I'm pronouncing that right, but oh man, it was
Nice.
like I couldn't stop watching it. I watched it on New Year's Eve. I just made pasta. Well, my husband made me pasta, and then um couldn't stop watching it. It's a lot of like kissing scenes.
Nice. I need to go back and finish Ozark. I was halfway
Oh,
through season 3
I watched
and
that.
then I just kind of fell off the not fell off the wagon, but I got busy with work and whatnot.
Yeah. And you kind of
And
have to follow it. Like you can't be on your phone. Like you have to like
yeah.
actually watch.
And so I'm kind of at that point now where it's like I remember what happens the first 2 seasons, but if I were to kind of jump in where I was on the 3rd season, I'd be
Yeah.
lost. So I think I have to kind of start over on the 3rd season,
Oh
just
man.
yeah, which is
Yeah,
fine. I was like
yeah,
4
that one I
episodes.
just like watched like nonstop. Like it
Yeah.
was just like an obsession, like where you just like can't stop, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, the funny thing about that was it was on the Kentucky trip with my family. We were sitting around in the living room one night. My dad's like, "Hey, have you ever seen Ozark?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you got to watch it. It's the best show ever." And I'm like, "Pump the brakes. I doubt
Yeah.
it, but let's give it a shot." He's like, "Okay, cool. We'll watch the first episode." 5 minutes in, everybody's asleep, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I really don't want to watch this, but okay. So I'm just kind of sitting here. And then, like 20 minutes later, I fall asleep. And we get up the next morning. My dad's like, "We got to watch Ozark." And I'm like, "You guys were asleep 5 minutes into the
You're
show
like,
last
I'm like
night."
3 episodes in, like, we can't watch this anymore.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there. And then, like, the next morning, we watched the first episode. And I'm like, "Okay, that's cool." And then I came home and I was like, "You know what? I'm kind of curious now because we'd brought up the TV show Waco. The
Yeah.
girl that played, Thibodeau's girlfriend was also in Ozark, and I
Yes.
was and
Yes.
so I was just like, "Okay, let's give it another episode," and then you watch that second episode, and it's like,
You're like in.
"Okay, fine, I'm in, you got
I
me,
know.
you win."
Yeah. No, I told my dad to watch it and he was like, and then I was like, no, stick with it. It gets really intense. And then he
Yeah,
did. He was like obsessed. So
yeah, and
he
so
like told me, I think there's like a new season coming out that
yeah,
they're
there's a 4th season from what I
mhm.
hear,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
um it's one of those things where it's like it's same issue with F is for Family, like, I binge watched the entire series in the matter of a week, and now
Right.
it's like, I'm ready for season 4, and they're
And
like, "Season
yeah.
4 is gonna be out next year," and I'm like,
Like, hell no.
"Oh."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I'm with you. Like, it was kind of nice. I watched The Undoing, which
yeah,
everyone was posting about, and it was kind of nice that it was just like a cinematic, like just like beginning and end
yeah,
to the series. Like even like with Ozarks, like I'm kind of like, okay, like what more can they do? Like
yeah,
love it, but like we
yeah.
don't want to get like too like because shows can kind of go bad.
Mhm.
Like
Oh, yeah.
Yellowstone is another show that I love. And I'm kind of like, okay, what's going to happen with this next season? Because this last season was like so much drama. And I'm like, can we just like, not like, I feel like the writers are trying too hard or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, absolutely. I completely get it. I completely agree. But I don't wanna take up too much more of your time, I wanna be respectful.
Oh,
Um Well, one thing that we like to do, we'll jump in this realm. One thing we like to do on Live and Amplified is we like to pass on knowledge to younger musicians.
cool.
So I want to ask you
Love
one question, and usually I keep it one question because it'll have a pretty long coattail to it.
that.
Um, what is one thing or several things, usually people have several things to say. What is one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you first got started in music?
Oh man, what am I feeling today like that? One thing that I wish I would have known.
Yeah.
I would say the thing that I wish I would have known is that it really, I mean, I knew this, but it really is a 10-year town. And I think you really have to be patient and persistent and persevere,
Mm,
and it's going to be a roller coaster ride. And I kind of knew that, but I think actually going through it is another thing. And so, um, my advice to you would be to find like mentors that are in the industry that can help you kind of guide you through that. Like I'm really lucky that I have people in my life that have been there kind of from like the beginning where I've like met people. Um, but I think you have to you're going to make things that you wish you would have there's going to be things that you wish you would have done,
mhm,
and then there's going to be things that you were obviously happy that you did. And I think you just have to know that your path is like it's just going to be what it is, and just be positive and through it and not lose that like love and excitement of why you do this.
mhm.
And it's because like do it because it brings you joy and because you love it, and
Yeah.
don't lose sight of that. I think is really important. And especially with this new music, I went back and really like just like dove into music. And I think that's the cool thing about coronavirus. It was like there's no distractions. It was just like me making music. And
Hmm.
there hasn't really been a time where I've been able to do that,
Hmm.
because I've always been in school or like
Yeah.
working and stuff like that. And so, or on the road or like, so um, yeah, I think that kind of answered your question, right?
Yeah. No, it was perfect. Um, and you kind of answered this one already, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask it. What's keeping you motivated right now?
What's keeping me motivated right now? I would say like the people, like the fans and the people that I interact with on social media,
Mhm.
and the fact that um, I've got this great body of work that I'm just eager to get out. And I think I'm very motivated and excited by your comment of putting out the two singles and then the album and
Yeah.
then promoting the singles. That was not one of my options I was thinking about, and I think that I think I see. I'm going to do some research, but I think
Yeah.
that there's some artists that have done that, and so I
Yeah.
think that may be a good call, because I was feeling a little unsettled that um, I'm not going to be releasing till like the spring, which that's like a few months gone by of not putting music out, which I want to put music out for you guys, especially right now when we're all just sitting at home. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then as far as kind of moving forward, if anybody wants to follow you online and listen to your music, where can they do that? Where can they follow you on social media, all that fun stuff?
yeah, www.elizabethlyonsmusic.com. I spell my name with a Z, Elizabeth, Elizabeth, and my last name is Lyons. And you can find me on all social media accounts. Facebook is Elizabeth Lyons Music, and Twitter and Instagram is at ELYONS Music. And I'm on TikTok. I just joined TikTok when coronavirus happened, and YouTube, and on all music platforms. And I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to message me if you have any more questions, or you're an aspiring artist, or want to be in the industry in some capacity, or just want to talk about food or boys or relationships or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from you. I can't do what I do without you. So,
Awesome. And then I'm going to ask you the most polarizing question I could possibly ask you. Are you ready
okay.
for this one?
Yes.
Pineapple pizza, yes or no?
No.
Okay. You kind of reassured my or my theory on it, but then you also kind of smashed it in the same way because it's
Oh,
like being from the Midwest, it's definitely a no. Like
yes.
hands down, definitely a no. But
Definitely.
I'm starting to find out that it's a very southern and coastal thing. I know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, I am a meat lover's pizza. I like
Mm,
pepperoni sausage.
nice. Yes. That's about where I'm at. And then I went to Florida and my dad's like, "Oh, we got vegetables on our pizza." I was like, "No,
Yeah,
meat."
no, I'll,
Nope.
I'll do. My sister's like kind of more plant. She's turned more plant based, which I'm
Yeah.
trying to be like her. Like I'm trying to incorporate more plants into my plate. But so I will occasionally like I'll go for a veggie pizza every once in a while, but I have to have pepperoni sausage. Like if I'm having pizza, like I'll have like a slice of pepperoni sausage, and then I'll have like a slice of the veggie. And like I feel like that's how I'll like
Yeah.
incorporate it out. But
Gotcha. Gotcha.
or I won't have any of the veggie and
Yeah.
just have
I
peppers.
will say though, was it last weekend or 2 weekends ago? I was out in Roswell, New Mexico, because
Cool. Never been there.
I lived there for about 4 years, so I still got a lot of friends out there. And since
Mhm.
I'm only 7.5 hours away, it's a lot easier for me to get there and hang out. And
Well,
I was hanging out with my buddy, and his wife ordered Domino's, and I'm sitting there eating, and I'm like, "Hey man, what's this green stuff on here? Like, what's the green like flakes or whatever?" He's like, "Oh, we got green chili on the pizza," and I'm like,
oh wow.
"Oh, okay." Like, and I'm sitting there like, "This is really good," and like, I'm not a huge fan of green chili, but
Yep.
just
It was good. Yeah, I've
yeah,
I've had like jalapenos or whatever before. on there. But I usually put like Tabasco. I much prefer like to put Tabasco if I'm gonna put like a spice on a pizza.
Yeah.
You know?
That's my dad, hands down, Tabasco.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
that's my dad.
yeah. Or red peppers. Like I always put red pepper flakes, maybe some garlic powder, oregano. Like I douse my pizza with like, a lot of the good stuff.
Yeah, my sister used to douse hers with, Parmesan cheese, and
Oh yeah, I do that too.
it's like you're eat because there's, like, a couple of restaurant or a couple of pizza places where she would only eat the cheese pizza, and then
Oh,
she'd douse it with Parmesan, and I'm like, That's it's
cheese on
cheese."
cheese.
Yeah, it's cheese on cheese. You're kinda killing it right now, but whatever. But, first, once again, I wanna thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. It's been
Thank
an
you.
absolute blast. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to see how 2021 turns out for you. I'm excited to hear all your new music, all that fun stuff. So I'm really glad you gave us the time to sit down and chat.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it too. Gotta love it that we're both from Chicago and we're both in the South now. So,
Because what I was doing my research, all it kept saying was the Midwest, and I'm like,
yep.
"Man, the Midwest is a very vague term. She could be from St. Louis, just and I was just sitting
Okay.
there, and then in my stupid brain, I saw Vanderbilt, and for some reason I thought it said Valparaiso, like
Oh,
Valparaiso University. Like, my brain fried the way it is, and I'm
that's
sitting there, I'm like, "Oh, Vanderbilt, she went to Valparaiso, cool." And I'm like, "Nope, those are definitely 2 different universities." Yep,
so fun.
that's that
Yeah,
South Chicago education I got.
totally. Oh my God, you're so funny.
Yeah,
No, I mean, the thing is, there's like we need more Midwestern, country artists.
yeah,
So I kind of was pushing that. Because it's like we do, and I really did grow up all over the Midwest, so
yeah,
born and raised, and very proud. Made in the Midwest is one of my songs says,
yeah.
song title is.
Awesome, awesome. But
Well, it's
once
so
again,
nice, and let me know how I can help promote and the podcast as well, because I love podcasts, and I think a lot of people are listening to podcasts these days. So
oh, yeah, that's a whole nother theory of mine why we really started pushing up the podcast, but we could
yeah,
have that conversation at a later
great, awesome.
yeah,
Well, thank you
but
so much. Y'all have a great night, and I hope to hear from all of you guys and follow and message and all of that. So,
yep, once again, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you guys later.
bye.
All right, we are good.